Welcome back, guys. Happy New Year. Okay, we are going to be looking at your 2021 report via your zodiac sign to see what can be coming up, warning dates, transformations, the unexpected, and the beautiful growth within the domain of both Saturn and Jupiter with that conjunction that just did transpire on the 21st of December 2020. Now, Saturn transited into Aquarius on the 17th of January, and the conjunction point, as I mentioned, occurred on the 21st of December at 0 degrees Aquarius. Now, Saturn spent approximately 2.5 years in Capricorn, and we did previously have the nodes in both Cancer and Capricorn. And I am seeing towards the end of 2020, with the full moon in Cancer and the heavy Capricorn placements in January, these themes are bouncing off in a karmic test to get that foundation right, to really get that accountability there so that all that we've learned we can apply it in this given situation within the age of Aquarius to get the best out of that astrology. Saturn connects to rules, discipline, responsibility, maturity, structure, challenges, restriction, enduring, death, the unknown, and endings. But it's really like a quality system to make sure that we're ticking all those boxes, learning those lessons, taking that direct accountability. And it's almost like the harsh karmic energy, but there's benefits in that. It's the lessons like a teach they teach us to really put that best foot forward, that if we do such with Jupiter, we can get the very best out of those placements. They can link to rights and responsibilities, obligations, false sense of freedom, and self-management. But it's really that self-mastery that it's going to teach us. And especially when it does go retrograde this year, it's a time to reflect upon what we've learned, what we've implemented, and as it goes direct to then make those changes. Theoretically, Saturn is at home in Aquarius. It's its natal ruler. Now, as I mentioned, Aquarius feels quite at home with Saturn. We also have the subcategory of Uranus being linked to it. That connects to the 12th house. So we have both the axis of the 11th and the 12th house themes coming through. Subject matters linking to Uranus and Taurus this year will be coming up because we have 3 squaring aspects. We also have at the beginning of January, Uranus and Taurus going stationary direct on the 1st and direct by the 14th. So sudden changes in those areas can be coming up in a very unexpected way. Aquarius really is the humanitarian of the zodiac sign, wanting to make the world better, looking at those social institutions that aren't working, transforming them, changing them up. The mantra is I know, and the tarot card is really linked to, with Aquarius, the star card in the tarot. The great connection of time. Saturn requires us to utilize that energy effectively, merge with that 11th house placement with where it's falling in your birth chart, which I will discuss in this video, to get the best out of the situation. And the yin yang, the push-pull energy that will be coming up is Uranus and Taurus making squaring aspects to Saturn in Aquarius. So what themes can we have coming up with Saturn in Aquarius? Definitely the energy of responsibility and accountability, and it can be very karmic if we do not follow suit with it. Now, with Uranus and Taurus, it can cause nervous energy, especially when it relates to anything of the tactile, financial related dynamics. And again, it will very much depend upon where it's situated in your chart, which I will mention. So with that, both with the 11th and the 12th house, this push-pull psychology surrounding the situations you're doing, it can be quite a burden. So having to really self-master, having to be extremely organised, and it's almost like, okay, we can see the blessings with Jupiter and Saturn being directly linked together, but what we're going to do to make those things happen, but not biting off more than we can chew, burning that midnight hour, so to speak, waking up at the crack of dawn to make that hope and dream come true. Really taking the direct steps of accountability with Saturn. And yes, with the sudden changes, it's almost the intuitive side. The house of our hidden enemies is going to be our psychology, really. What potentially could we expect? We could expect very much philosophies to come up. Humanitarianism, scientific revolution, music, dance, arts, group activities, more conducive relationships. There can be this notion coming up in 2021 and beyond where we have tribe and pack mentality. So initially we will need to adjust to the energy of Aquarius. If you do study zodiac signs, Aquarius, when they're born and they're growing into that energy, initially do feel like the black sheep of the family. They have very, very firm ideals. They really do fight for the underdog. So, initially it can feel like they're on the outside with those burdens and responsibilities. As we move into this, a lot of us can embody some of that frequency, and it can feel very foreign and alienating initially. But again, with the psychology of the 12th house, we do need to really have a goal in mind. That can be for the bigger picture, where we are learning to have alliances, learning to work together. And it can be due to circumstances that do happen in our own lives personally, or on a wider scale, a global situation that is pulling us together to make us directly work with each other. The old theme of there's no I in team. So, yes, initially pack mentality can come through, but then understanding that for survival will be there's no I in team, and really being open to that transformation. So I do see a lot of alliances. I do see a lot of people bridging gaps, finding unique ways to work with each other. This can be in collaborations. It can be to do with wider group situations. However it's going to play out, it's almost like we're in the Middle Ages moving to the modern ages. So we're the paved way in this point in time where, yes, in astrology, some do deem this as the recession, but there's the separate energy of the steps that we're taking to move out of this. There can be beautiful aspects. With Jupiter mid-year, it is moving and retrograding back into Pisces. Again, it will be very Uranian energy. Our psychology, time to reflect upon that. With our growth, are we on point? Do we need to look at something differently? Are we getting stuck in our heads? Are we putting our actual action and best foot forward? That will be the time that for a lot of us, it can be a little bit testing, but it's deeply informative also because we will have the time to assess such. So before I mention how this will affect your zodiac sign, I will mention the key dates that we need to mark on a calendar. And that is for Saturn and Aquarius will be direct between the 1st of January through to May the 23rd. By that point, all of your actions, especially when it does link to Jupiter, and I will mention Jupiter dates as well, we will have approximately 6 months really to get buckle down and get these things done. So I really did say, moving into January, it will be really hit the ground running to monopolize upon the Saturn-Jupiter energy to get the best out of your chart. Now, it will be going retrograde from May the 23rd. And it is at 13 degrees Aquarius, and it will stay retrograde until October the 11th. So you can find frustrations and reflection upon that accountability from a karmic point of view around that time, and then applying the changes as it goes direct from October the 11th at 6 degrees until January 2022. That will be at 11 degrees. Okay, beautiful Aries, let's have a look at both Saturn and Jupiter in your house placement and what it will mean with the Saturnian energy between 2020 and 2023. Now, mid-year, Jupiter will be retrograding into Pisces, which will be a little bit of an energy check-in into what will be happening for you energetically with Jupiter. So Jupiter in 2022 will be transiting into Pisces. So we will mention that in this next part of this video relating to how that will affect your growth in that domain. Now, initially, both Saturn and Jupiter will be in Aquarius, which does hit your 11th house placement. And this can be any of your hopes, dreams, and aspirations, what the accountable energy is inside of those things. It can also be networking and new friendship groups, more conducive, like-minded energies coming into your life. But from a workplace domain, it can be utilizing that 11th house to develop it, the bigger vision. It can be management, it can be owning your own business, building empires, the responsibility with that. and the obligations. And between the 1st of January to May the 23rd, we have Saturn direct. After that, between May the 23rd at 13 degrees Aquarius till October the 11th at 6 degrees Aquarius, it will be retrograde. So that will be a time for you to reflect upon those areas and quality control them. There can be mishaps surrounding that time. It's very karmic. Saturn's very karmic. So if we're being in alignment, things can flow. But it can also show during the retrograde effect what to do to transform those areas. Jupiter by this point will still be direct, which will be beneficial. It does go retrograde by about June. So we should have, a little bit more time in that pocket. May, June, we'll have another month. With the forward motion of that domain of your 11th house, but it will quality control it because you'll have Saturn retrograde and Jupiter direct. As Jupiter goes retrograde, it will be linking to Pisces, so we will discuss that after. So what can you expect from the 11th house? The 11th house is friends, clubs, associates, aspirations, humanitarianism, technology, wider group energy, the bigger picture. Plus Saturn, it's the restrictions, the obligations, the set format of what to do to be able to benefit that Jupiter placement with those areas of your life and how to utilize it. So if you are managing a business, utilizing the 11th house to network, it can be opening up those areas for you. If you're looking for jobs, the first 2 weeks of January are really a great time to get that off the ground, sending your resumes out, because by about mid-month, we have Mercury going retrograde, stationary retrograde. So it can be a delay between then and Mercury going direct, and it will be in Aquarius, so it still will be linked to these areas of your life. Now, Saturn in Aquarius transit dates before we move on to Jupiter. We are having Saturn in Aquarius direct from the 1st of January till May the 23rd, where it will go stationary retrograde on May the 23rd at 13 degrees Aquarius through till October the 11th at 6 degrees Aquarius. Now, the direct motion of this will be from October the 11th at 6 degrees through to January 2022 at 11 degrees. Okay, as for Jupiter, now I'm really looking at the charts, and with these placements, we did have, as I mentioned, the conjunction point with Saturn and Jupiter, and that was on the 21st in December 2020. Now, what we have moving forward are some beautiful aspects, but we really need to monopolize upon it, and this is going to take a great deal of accountability with that vision. So with Jupiter, it's showing the vision, it's giving us the energy, it's giving us the opportunities, but we will need to take direct accountability. And we do have a window pocket. Now, in the initial stages, moving into 2021, we have most of the planets direct. We have Uranus and Taurus going stationary direct by the 1st and out of shadow by the 14th. So with Jupiter and Saturn, we have until about the end of January. And then even by mid-January, we're going to be in shadow stage of Mercury going retrograde, and it will be in the house of Aquarius. So it will both link to these big boys in the sky and reflecting upon what all this energy means between Saturn and Jupiter and what we're going to do with it, what some of these themes are. And very much, as I mentioned before, with Aquarius, it can feel like the black sheep of the family. It can be pack and tribe mentality. It's wanting to have this innovation and change, and it's all for the people, but sometimes we can feel like the odd one out. So adjusting to this can take a little bit of time. So it's perfect that we will be having a Mercury retrograde. Going into shadow by about mid-January and then retrograde by the end of January. So moving into 2021, a bit of reflection on all the placements we hold within our zodiac signs where Aquarius lands, which I have mentioned and I'll continue to. How it's going to affect us, tuning into it. Now, contracts, signing of anything, there can be complications. There can also be additional information coming towards you, especially when it does come to group endeavors and growth. It can be not the best time to launch projects. Far better to, if you are going to launch anything relating to Aquarius, with both Saturn and Jupiter in those placements, better to wait till after Mercury direct. Okay, so the must-know dates with Jupiter. Jupiter is making two transitional points. One, it will be in Aquarius until June 20th, where it does move into Pisces, and we will get a very different energy. And around these dates, it's very important to pay attention to what some of these themes are, because Jupiter will be entering Aquarius again towards the 1st of January, which can be taking on those themes, and it will be at 0 degrees. So initially, we will have Jupiter direct from January the 1st at 2 degrees Aquarius until June the 20th. Now, it's pretty much a month after Saturn would have already been well and truly retrograde. We still have Jupiter direct, so it will land on June the 20th. Then with the retrograde, it's retrograde between the 20th of June at 2 degrees Pisces. Keep an eye on those dates. Till October the 18th at 22 degrees Aquarius. Now, as it moves direct on October the 18th, it will be in Aquarius until the end of the year, where it will yet again enter. So we have the retrograde point at the middle of the year. As I mentioned, pay attention to those dates, and that should hold you through. Now, we'll talk about how it's going to link to your zodiac sign, what these themes can be. Okay, Aries, for you guys, because you do have Aquarius in the 11th house, anything that you're dealing with connected to the 11th house, which can be your marketing, your advertising, networking, bringing groups together. If you're working a team, bringing those together. There can be a retrograde effect, but it is going to be hitting the 12th house. So 12th house can be the psychology surrounding those energies. It can also be your hidden resources. It can be a very spiritual time, and it's very important to, during that space, and the date will be June the 20th, it'll be very Neptune energy, because we do have Neptune and Pisces. So your hopes, dreams, your aspirations, anything that links to that area in your life, there can be a deep reflection going on. Now, it can be very spiritual or can be slightly distorted. It depends on how you deal with the energy. Because it will be Jupiter retrograde, you can find frustration linking to that 12th house placement. Now, direct would be a very different energy. It would be applying it, utilizing what you've learned in your life, to be able to master those energies around you. It can also be where you have hidden resources, tapped away. What are you hiding in your mind? Is something psychologically coming up? Very separate. It can be very, very psychic in nature. So it can be a good time to look at, okay, if that vision is growth, what would that look like, and what would you need to transform during that retrograde time? It's also going to give you a bird's eye view into what Jupiter will be like in 2022. So pay attention to that time. Jot it down, and you've got food for thought for 2022. Let's have a look at Uranus and Taurus. Now, it will be stationary shadow by the 1st of January 2021 at 6 degrees Taurus. It then will be direct by the 14th of January at 6 degrees Taurus. Now, the direct motion will be pretty much from January 14th through to August the 20th, where it will be at 14 degrees Taurus. So we have that pocket between January and August where we can have that direct movement with anything that we've reflected upon, all those changes that may have occurred. And the changes can be coming up in the first 2 weeks of January. And although we do have 3 squaring aspects this year with Saturn and Uranus and Taurus, I am feeling, although major astrologers are discussing the fact that we're going to have 3 major shifts when it does come to Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius, I really do feel the beginning of the year is going to give us this theme of what potentially can come through. And I will discuss dates, very much linking into these energies, during the year and, throughout. So the retrograde, the next retrograde cycle is between August the 20th at 14 degrees Taurus and January the 1st at 10 degrees Taurus 2022. Now, the first point of the squaring aspect that we are experiencing will be February the 17th. Now, with that, we will already have Mercury retrograde in Aquarius. It would, by mid-January, we will be having those shadow aspects plus Uranus and Taurus is in shadow cycle. So it can be, again, pretty much anywhere from the 1st till the 14th and the 17th. There can be sudden changes and difficulties when it does come to Aquarius and Taurus placements. Now, the second part of Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn will be on June the 14th. Now, Saturn in Aquarius will be retrograde from May the 23rd till October the 11th. We also will have Jupiter in shadow during this time, moving into retrograde into Pisces by June the 20th. By this point, prior to the squaring aspect occurring with both Uranus and Taurus and Saturn and Aquarius, we would have had the annular solar eclipse, the new moon in Gemini at 19 degrees. And we also have Pluto in Capricorn retrograde between April the 27th and October the 6th at 24 degrees Capricorn. So, you know, with this phase during June the 14th, you can find again major themes to do with the eclipse can be cycling, and that's due to the fact that we have the North Node in Gemini, and this is a brand new moon, so it will be an ending and a new beginning. When it comes to Jupiter, the reflection state and the shadow cycle of that will be moving into effect. So we'll already be feeling that by this point, by the time we have Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius. And on top of that, just to make things really, really nice, we would have already had Saturn retrograde. So it's the reflection time. It's the frustration of, okay, where hadn't we taken accountability when it relates to the Aquarius placement? Is it something financial? Is it something in a value system, spiritually? However it's playing out, I'll link it to you once I finish these three aspects. We will discuss, you know, how this is going to affect us all. Okay, now December 24th, we do have Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius. Now, there are major themes on this month occurring that will directly kind of impact this one zone. So we do need to look at those before we do look at Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius. Now, number one, Uranus and Taurus will still be retrograde, and that's until January 2022. It went retrograde August the 20th at 14 degrees Taurus until, as I mentioned, January 2022. We also, on the 4th of December, had a solar eclipse, new moon in Sagittarius. So it's an ending in one domain and a brand new beginning in another. The other area we need to be mindful of is that Aries and Chiron is stationary direct. It should still be in shadow. By this time, it went direct as of the 19th, but there still can be, you know, this lag and recuperation that we're trying to get. On top of that, we have the Sun in Capricorn. So yeah, really having to look at that accountability within our lives, utilizing that energy that we had at the beginning of the year and looking at things to do with our accountability showing up. It can be government related dynamics, but the accountable energy and going back to that foundational level. Mars also is going to be in Sagittarius. So both with the eclipse and with Mars, it's really pushing towards those new Jupiter energies in a very unique way. Now, Aquarius is the polarity of the collective. It's the it's the person that understands, or energy rather, we should say. It's the collective energy that will be coming through, but it's the humanitarian. It's groups forming, it's the people, so to speak. So wherever it's falling in your chart, it's going to be deeply important. Now, Uranus and Taurus understands the requirements for the structures, but also is understanding the necessity for change when it does come to Uranus and Taurus. So we need a balance of both worlds, but there can be complications surrounding those energies. And as Uranus and Taurus goes direct, and it kind of matches because we'll have Venus retrograde in Capricorn, the Sun in Capricorn, putting your energy into that to make these things happen. Mars in Sagittarius, the solar eclipse that occurred, which was a new moon, and for the next 6 months we can have activations on that point, plus Uranus and Taurus squaring on the 24th. So do expect either side and pretty much the entirety of the month, you know, being prepared, looking at those placements, working on those areas so that when it does come to the squaring aspects, you're in alignment. Now, sudden changes can happen with placements linking to Uranus and Taurus, and it can be instantly. Now, this can happen anytime either side of this month due to the fact that the energy of its squaring is occurring on the 24th, but because it's retrograde, any inklings you have, and I'll name the dates again, between August the 20th, be prepared. Start looking at those things that need changing. Yes, sudden changes may have happened around then. It can give you an idea as to what can be coming up right now, and start implementing them before that time. Really use those times in the retrograde effect to implement those changes of where those, you know, tension points were in life, so that when it does come to that point, you know, you're not going to have a very tense Christmas. Now, because we're having Aries and Chiron direct, yes, our wounds are relating to an area, but we can't allow our wounds to stand in our way. And it's beneficial that it's direct. We can have a little bit more energy moving out of our way, so to speak. That's why it's there for, you know, for the 7 years, is to help us develop that. But looking at the key themes of both Taurus and Aquarius to get the best out of it, and trying to find the yin and yang. Now, Taurus collectively can relate to land, agriculture, beauty, our finances, food, resources, and Aquarius is the wider group energy of the people. Again, it can be institutions, it can be viewpoints, it can be value systems, helping one another, sometimes to the detriment of ourselves. So it's going to be this fine line, and, you know, even moving into the beginning of 2021, really adjusting to that. And the benefit will be that you know, we'll have that pocket time to kind of ease into it, but it can feel a bit like it's thrown upon us. So bear in mind there can be tension points there. Any themes that come up around August, pay very close attention. Fine tune them, move them so that you're protected. I'd probably say if you want to store, you know, get your Christmas presents in order well and truly before the end of the year. Start, you know, paying for those things little by little, so that it's not going to agitate the apple cart. That can be wherever, again, which I will talk about for your zodiac signs during the year and inside this video separately, where we can discuss what can be coming up for you. Okay, Aries, let's have a look at how this transit with Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn on those key dates I mentioned can affect you. Now, the first one's February the 17th. Mercury will be going retrograde between January the 30th and February the 21st. So when it does come to anything relating to paperwork, documentation, you know, even anything relating to the Aquarius placement, which for you is your 11th house, it's, you know, pay attention to it. Be careful. If you are wanting to have hopes, dreams, aspirations, socialization, group activities, pay attention to those things, because there can be some complications linking to that temporarily until Mercury goes direct after February the 21st. Now, the squaring aspect will be between your second house placement and your 11th, and it can be to do with finances, vices, you know, trying to have a look at maybe expenditure, where it's going, and how to fine tune it. And it's sort of handy that Mercury is going retrograde in Aquarius to fine tune those two areas, especially because these are going to be key themes throughout 2021. We're having 3 squares, as I mentioned, and these key areas can come up as well as other house placements, as I mentioned. So the main area I would really focus on is try and stay settled. Make sure moving into January that your nervous system is well balanced. Pay attention to your finances, that of what you own, insurances and things to that degree, plus your net worth. It can be land, it can be your wage coming in, paying attention to where that money is going and what the bigger dream is and what you want to do, and how the wider group, if you're in a family related dynamic or a co-working or managing position, you know, what that can look like and what those changes will need to be. But you can find tension a few days before and during this day. Now, the second part's going to be on June the 14th, 2021, where Uranus and Taurus is going to be squaring Saturn and Aquarius, your 11th and your second house placement, as I mentioned before. Now, again, Saturn in Aquarius is retrograde by May the 23rd until October the 11th. So With your 11th house placement, you can find some tension there. On this occasion, it's the vice versa than what we had on February the 17th. For you, it can be where you're looking at your hopes, dreams, aspirations, your friendship groups. You can be changing friendship groups, reflecting upon them. Some of your pastimes, maybe the bigger energy when it comes to business, what the bigger picture is, and where the responsibility is versus the second house placement of the income. And it can be, you know, wagering up a hope and dream and you know, tuning into, okay, is this exactly what I want? And if it is, what am I going to do to make these things happen, linking to the 11th and the second house placement? It can be advertising, marketing, group activities, working on those things. And Jupiter at that point also is going to be in shadow, and it's going to be moving into Pisces by June the 20th. So you'll probably already be tapping into those Pisces energies to do with the bigger picture. And that's because in 2022, we are having Jupiter move into Pisces. So let me have a quick look at the chart. That's your 12th house. So yeah, the psychology surrounding things, you know, where you're stuck, what you're thinking, what your hunch energy is, where it's delusional or where it could be a dream state, what you would need to do to make that happen. That can also be both with the second house placement and the 12th house placement, where we're, you know, trigger eating and things to that degree, using pacifiers, what the psychology is surrounding it. How do we deplete some of that stress for the bigger picture of the whole thing? We also had the eclipse in Gemini, which connects to your third house, and it was a new moon. So when it does come to communication, movement, your routine, maybe even a vehicle, you're really moving towards the north node of Gemini. So those themes throughout the year will play out for you, but quite largely near the eclipses. And then you receive a new cycle moving over into 2022. Now, that eclipse was at 19 degrees Gemini. It was a solar eclipse, being a new moon, as well as we have Pluto in Capricorn retrograde. And Capricorn for you links to your work, anything you're working on, your career sector, your reputation, the way you're showing up, and seeing if you're on mission. So if there's something that you need to finalize linking to that, it's retrograde from April 27th till October the 6th at 24 degrees Capricorn. So Pluto will be there for another few years, and it's to fine tune these areas, but we have the beautiful energies of both Saturn and Jupiter that are assisting to lighten that heavy frequency of Capricorn. Now, December 24th, we have again Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius. Uranus and Taurus will be retrograde. That's from August, so all the way through August, moving to December when the squaring aspect is occurring. And it will be going direct in January. So Uranus went retrograde on the 20th at 14 degrees Taurus. We also had another solar eclipse, new moon in Sagittarius, and that was on the 4th. So we already have that energy moving through the whole month of December with that frequency of the solar eclipse, the new moon in Sagittarius. We also have Mars in Sagittarius at the moment, so the South Node is being deeply highlighted and transformed. So with Sagittarius, it can do with long distance travel, it can do with marketing, belief systems, for you being that it's your 9th house. It can also connect in with siblings, foreign countries, your purpose, and balance it with the 3rd house, which is Gemini. What I am seeing for you guys, we have the Sun in Capricorn, and again, your career sector, plus Venus is going to be retrograde in Capricorn from the 19th to January the 1st. So subjects to do with your marriages, contracts, partnerships, your employment, you know, bringing in new ways of seeing things, especially if you have belief systems, they could be really transforming. It's really wise to wait till January, and I'll probably say the first 2 weeks of January, because we have Uranus and Taurus retrograde till then. We also have Venus retrograde. This can be a very tense Christmas, but if you do pay attention to the Capricorn placements of getting work done prior to that, maybe even booking a holiday prior to that, And not making any rash judgment, because with Venus retrograde, it's almost like you see the good, the bad, and the ugly. It is not a time to get into a brand new relationship. You can have blasts from the past coming back. You know, if it's somebody you directly know, it's closing chapters out. It's tidying them up, reconciliations and things to that degree. But it doesn't tend to bode too well with newbies. And that can even be brand new ventures when it does come to business endeavors. It's probably better to wait for January for those launches. Now, I'm only going to briefly touch on Pluto in Capricorn because it is sort of counteracted by Saturn and Jupiter. So it will ease up. We have had a lot of heavy placements. Now, January can be a large point of this, and December, because we have a lot of placements there. Plus, when the retrograde effects happens, I check in with you month by month, and I do give you the daily updates. Now, the direct cycle will be from January the 1st at 24 degrees Capricorn. And we're having a Mercury retrograde shadow period by mid-month. So that can be anything Aquarian related, what we need to tie up, miscommunication crosswise. But anything relating to those loose ends, get paperwork done in the first 2 weeks. And you pretty much got through to April 27th. Now, by April, anything relating to that Capricorn placement, there can be reflection upon those things, refinement, and that will be from April the 27th at 26 degrees. The higher in the degree point it gets, the more critical the aspect. We're doing 24, you know, and 0. There's certain critical degree points that can be pretty harsh. So retrograde as of April the 27th through to October the 6th at 24 degrees Capricorn. Then from October the 6th through to January 1st, it will be direct, and it goes retrograde again, 2022. Okay, Aries, for you, Capricorn lands in your 10th house placement. Now, bear in mind, subjects to do with work, what you've been doing, tying up loose ends, as well as your career sector linking to Uranus and Taurus. We've got Black Moon, Lilith and Taurus. The two key areas that I see the biggest movement in this department when it does come to tying up loose ends is potentially between January all the way through to about March the 3rd. Some subjects can come up in April, and then more towards December, where we're going to have Venus retrograde in Capricorn. Pay attention to those areas, tie up loose ends, get things done well and truly prior to that transit. And during that retrograde effect, you can be looking at those dynamics, and it's fine-tuning it, discovering things, missing items, what to let go of, fine-tuning. Okay, let's have a look at Neptune and Pisces. Two things to mention before I get into the dates of the directs and the retrogrades is I will mention the astrology during the month, how these things are playing out for you week by week, as well as Jupiter is going to be transiting mid-year into Pisces. So this will be a double whammy for Neptune and Pisces. We're also going to have, let me have a look at the charts for Mars. Okay, more towards October and December, there can be these things coming up, but let's have a look at the dates. Now, on January the 1st, we will have Neptune direct until June the 25th at 23 degrees Pisces. Its retrograde date is June the 25th till the 1st of December. So there can be deep reflection in this area, which again, I do remember we do have Uranus and Taurus squaring Saturn and Aquarius around that time. So it'll be retrograde till then, going stationary direct. And again, it can be sometimes quite slow moving. So any of those areas that maybe you haven't launched, transform, change, or the house that it's linking to, which I'll talk about shortly, you know, there can be tension points there. Now, it will be pretty much direct from the beginning of December through till the end of this year into 2022. And it'll be at 20 degrees Pisces. Let's have a look at the placements. Okay, as I mentioned, Neptune is going to be in Pisces during the year, as well as mid-year. Jupiter is transiting and retrograding back into Pisces. So big themes relating to 2022 can be coming up. Looking at those things and transforming them. Now, it is linking to your 12th house. Now, if you find you're feeling very, very fatigued and you've been thinking a lot, developing, not acting, but thinking, get that into alignment. But in the retrograde, you can be reflecting upon what some of those themes can be to gain the clarity on your hopes and dreams and aspirations. Turning those dreams into a physical reality might have been causing some tension. If you do need to transform some things, it might be your daily routine, and that can be to fine-tune it to give you more time to have that meditation, but it also could be some things that are coming up for you that you do want to kind of bring into fruition. Pay attention to those themes. They'll come up again in 2022, and if there's anything you need to shift, pay attention to it. Move that situation as Jupiter goes direct back into Aquarius, and by 2022 you'll be prepared. If you do need a booking, you can go to the link below and I can coach you depending on what you're dealing with in that area. Okay, let's have a look at Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury is going retrograde 3 times this year. And some of these subjects we need to look at because they're going to highlight different places of our chart. It will be direct from the 1st of January until mid-month. Now, we're going to get that shadow cycle, and it's going to be in the house of Aquarius. Now, this is going retrograde as of the 30th, but mid-month you can feel some of those shadow aspects. So it will be pretty much from January the 30th at 26 degrees Aquarius, retrograde until February the 21st at 11 degrees. Now, that's most of February. So if there's anything paperwork related or wherever that falls in your house, pay attention to that retrograde cycle, and it can cause some frustration. Now, from there, it will be direct from February the 21st, 11 degrees Aquarius, until May the 29th at 24 degrees Gemini. Now, a lot of subjects relating to Gemini will come up during the next retrograde cycle, and that is between May the 29th, 24 degrees Gemini. Remember, we've got the North Node in Gemini, until September the 27th, 25 degrees Libra. Okay, from that point we have the direct motion, and that will be from October the 18th, 10 degrees Libra, until January 2022, 28 degrees Capricorn. So a lot more Capricorn themes coming up in January 2022. So what themes can be coming up? Now, the first retrograde is Aquarius energy. Pay attention to that cycle between January and February. The next retrograde is between May and June, and it's in the house of Gemini. The third one is between September and October, and it's in the house of Libra. So again, I will talk about this for your zodiac sign. Food for thought, remember these dates. Okay, Aries, let's have a look at these Mercury retrogrades. Now, the first one, as I mentioned, will be connected to Aquarius. So during the shadow cycle, mid-January, subjects to do with your 11th house placement can come up. Now, as it moves direct, you can apply those and changes can come. But do find that it can be very social with your 11th house placement. It can be a very busy time. There can be subjects to do with your hopes, dreams, and aspirations. Pauses linking to that, and that will be connected to those dates I mentioned between January 30th through to February the 21st. As we move away from that, you can get movement. Now, the second Mercury retrograde, which will be in Gemini, this for you is connected to your 3rd house placement, and it's very Mercury in energy. It also can relate to technologies and cars, communication, misunderstandings. Pay close attention to this during this time. As for you, there can be tension points linking to this, delays, missing emails, things to that degree. And that retrograde is occurring between May the 29th and June the 22nd, where it goes direct into Gemini. Now, the third Mercury retrograde is occurring September the 27th at 25 degrees Libra till October the 18th at 10 degrees Libra. So subjects relating to your marriages, contracts, partnerships can have some reflection. Your thoughts and your conversations can be a little bit distorted during that time. So, try and make space for that. Work can be very busy, misunderstandings, missing emails. Not a great time to sign contracts during this time, but reflect upon it. Movement will come. But again, it can be a very busy time relating to your 7th house placement, so it can be highly activated. Okay, let's have a look at Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury is going retrograde 3 times this year. And some of these subjects we need to look at because they're going to highlight different places of our chart. It will be direct from the 1st of January until mid-month. Now, we're going to get that shadow cycle, and it's going to be in the house of Aquarius. Now, this is going retrograde as of the 30th, but mid-month you can feel some of those shadow aspects. So it will be pretty much from January the 30th at 26 degrees Aquarius, retrograde until February the 21st at 11 degrees. Now, that's most of February. So if there's anything paperwork related or wherever that falls in your house, pay attention to that retrograde cycle and it can cause some frustration. Now, from there, it will be direct from February the 21st, 11 degrees Aquarius, until May the 29th at 24 degrees Gemini. Now, a lot of subjects relating to Gemini will come up during the next retrograde cycle, and that is between May the 29th, 24 degrees Gemini. Remember, we've got the North Node in Gemini, until September the 27th, 25 degrees Libra. Okay, from that point we have the direct motion, and that will be from October the 18th, 10 degrees Libra, until January 2022, 28 degrees Capricorn. So a lot more Capricorn themes coming up in January 2022. So what themes can be coming up? Now, the first retrograde is Aquarius energy. Pay attention to that cycle between January and February. The next retrograde is between May and June, and it's in the house of Gemini. The third one is between September and October, and it's in the house of Libra. So again, I will talk about this for your zodiac sign. Food for thought, remember these dates. Okay, Aries, moving into January, the theme will still be very first house placement with Mars, and it will be there till the 6th of January. Then it moves from the 6th of January into Taurus, and it's going to remain there until March the 3rd. These things can be growing your wealth and focusing on those areas, as well as self-esteem and professional resources. Now, by March the 3rd, we're having Mars transit into Gemini, which can be car-related dynamics, technology, communication, vehicles, and it can be very busy and amplified. So pay attention to driving on the roads around this time. Great time to get your car serviced, getting any Gemini related energies up to date, plus the North Nodes in Gemini. So that will be there from March the 3rd till April the 23rd. After that, from April the 23rd, we are dealing with home-related dynamics. Mars will be in the house of home, and this can be your daily routine, your psychology, and any subjects relating to home. So it can be moving home, pushing things forward, getting home in order, and that's going to be there till June the 11th. From June the 11th, we have Leo placements and any creative endeavors. And it does make sense because we're going to have Jupiter retrograding. So themes relating to 2022 can come through with Jupiter moving into Pisces. Now, pay attention to those times, but regardless, there can be themes very much from June 11th through till July the 29th, focused on romance, children, luck, launching projects, hobbies, luxuries. Focusing in on that energy will get the best out of the transit. Now, from July the 29th, we have Mars transiting Virgo. Very good time for you to look at healthy boundaries, to look at the balance that you're requiring, getting your health back on track, going for checkups, and this is between July the 29th and September the 14th. Subjects to do with pets and your workplace, how you're traveling and how people seeing you can be coming up for review, and a lot of energy needs to be poured into that, but will consume a lot of your time. Now, September the 14th, we have Mars transiting Libra. Now, it is your shadow sign, and this will relate to your marriages, contracts, partnerships, and this vibration will be coming through with Mars pretty much from September the 14th through till October the 30th. So a lot of attention will go into your marriages, contracts, partnerships, getting those things in order and balancing those things out. From October the 30th, we have Scorpio, Mars and Scorpio, very unique placement. Now, this can be taxation, paperwork, legacies, sharing resources, deepening your connections with people, and making a plan as to where you want to go in life. And that will be there till December the 13th. Now, on December the 13th, we have Mars transiting Sagittarius. Again, it's the South Node. Energy linking to your spirituality, your value systems, higher education. It can be science related, and it can also be subjects to do with siblings. Now, very separately, if you're working, it can link to foreign trade. But again, follow me month by month. I'll give you the updates, and if you need to, you can book a reading. Now, as we move into 2022, it will be transiting Capricorn. Last points, Venus retrograde. Now, that is occurring December the 19th until January the 1st. The other point I do want to mention is Chiron and Aries. Now, that retrograde is occurring from July the 15th at 12 degrees Aries until December the 19th, 8 degrees Aries. So pay attention to those times. You can feel a little bit fatigued during that time and irritable, linking to the 8th house. But because we have Mars transiting other signs, subjects relating to Sagittarius will come up towards December due to the fact we have the eclipse. Okay, as for your eclipse dates, we have the eclipse in May the 26th, a total lunar eclipse, which is a full moon in Sagittarius at 5 degrees. We then have an eclipse in June 10th, which is an annular solar eclipse, new moon in Gemini at 19 degrees. And then November the 19th, it's a partial lunar eclipse, full moon in Taurus at 27 degrees. And then finally, in December, on the 4th, we have a total solar eclipse, which is a new moon in Sagittarius at 12 degrees. Again, I will follow these live for all your up-to-date information and energy relating to the astrology. So if you have listened through this far, thank you very much. Take care, beautifuls. I'll see you soon. Again, if you do want a booking, the link is below. I'll see you during all the super chats and the live updates during the month, and we'll check in at the next stop to see how your zodiac sign's going. Love and light, guys. See you soon.